Very welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Larry Page. He is the president of Southern Silver Exploration Corp. And Larry, it's good to see you again. How are you?
Well, I'm very well indeed, and thanks for asking, Steve. I hope you are also.
Yes, I'm doing very well. Thanks very much. And excited to talk to you about the recent update to your PEA. And we'll talk about it in just a second. But first, let's talk project. Maybe remind everyone a little bit about your project for those unfamiliar with it.
Sure, I think it's some time since we talked, and we've made some pretty good milestones, which I'll touch on. But your readers may like to hear a bit of a history of why we're in Mexico, why we like the metals of silver, gold, zinc, lead, and how we progressed since the last time we chatted a couple of years ago. I've been in this business a long time, as a lawyer by profession, but as a principal of mineral exploration companies for a long period of time, and we've had some good successes over the last decades. The last one that we came off, and why it's important to tell you about it, because it talks about the future of the Southern Silver Company, is about 10 years ago. We had a big success with Western Silver. And it was a company that, another penny dreadful, that had a property in the state of Zacatecas in Mexico. It developed it to the stage where it went from pennies to dollars. And it developed the property to the stage where Goldcorp was interested. Goldcorp wasn't as big as it now is. And that's now the Peñasquito mine, which is one of the largest silver and base metal mines in the world. So we came off that win, and we were exploring in British Columbia and in the United States and Nevada, and we went to the same personnel that found the Peñasquito property and said, "Can you do it again?" And after a few stops and starts, we found a property that we bought right. And by that I mean it's the Cerro Las Minetas property that we're going to talk about today. It's the hill of many mines, and historically it was owned by a number of Mexican nationals, all of whom were beavering away at it with pickaxe and small drills and developing small, well, let's call them ore bodies, but small deposits. A Mexican national had consolidated the property, offered it to us for $4 million, which was a considerable amount of money in those days. And we were able to overtime buy it. And so for the first time, the Cerro was consolidated. Some $35 million later, we're at the stage where we have a PEA, where we have a very substantial potential ore body. It's not an ore body until it's mined, but the PEA is heading in that direction, and we're attracting the attention of mining companies. And that's the way juniors operate. All those are the steps, and that's what we've done in 10 years.
Yeah, Larry, tell me about the updated numbers here because they, as you mentioned, they were very good, and so making that case for obviously continuing the exploration.
Yeah, it's a silver lead zinc property with some gold and some copper. Notably, very rich copper, one hole, a meter deep, has got some very rich copper. So somebody younger than me will one day find out what's down there. But we were able to publish a PEA that shows that its gross revenue, once the property is up and is mining, would be $4.5 billion coming out of the property. And I'm not really a numbers guy for all of that sort of stuff, but what the market likes to know is what's the present value of the property at the present time at, say, a 5% discount? And that's about $501 million. So
Yeah.
for an expenditure of less than 50 to get to that stage, it's a pretty good risk reward.
Yeah. In the news release, you talk also about the sort of the next stages, and I know you've recently announced that you're going to the market for some capital to make all this happen. So, more drilling that needs to be done to sort of move things forward.
Yeah, drilling is not mandatory. What normally happens in the life cycle of a mining property is you take it to the stage where a miner taps you on the shoulder and says, "Move over, Sonny, I'll take it from here." And that's the stage we're at now. So you enter into non-disclosure agreements with mining companies. They look through the data and then they say one of three things. One is sayonara. The second is we'll buy your company either for cash or for shares. That's what happened in Western Silver, and the shareholders had $45 appreciation in their shares. Or they'll say, we'll put up all of the development capital and we'll share proceeds in the mine on a basis. And it's anything from a 50-50 to whatever you can negotiate. So our future really is to look at being a carried partner over time. So when you negotiate these sort of terms, you want to say that it's at a bankable feasibility, the major has to elect to put the property into production in as short a period of time as possible. And one thing that's interesting is a lot of these properties have net smelter return royalties on them, and that's a burden right off the top. In our case, we negotiated the deal so there are none. So it's much more attractive to a major that every dollar that comes out on a net basis is a profit situation. So that's open to us to be developing it like Mag Silver did, for instance, on its property. It's got I think a 30% working interest. We of course would like to have a 49% working interest, but that's where the dickering comes in. The other one is what happened in Western was a tender offer for all the shares on either a share basis or a cash basis, and that's where you get a tax-free rollover and the shareholders get a more senior piece of paper or they get cash. And so that's what our task is in the next several months, is to negotiate the best deal we can for the shareholders, which we are also shareholders.
Absolutely. Well, it makes a lot of sense. It's going to be exciting over the next few months. Larry, look forward to watching the story as it develops, and appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us an update on where you're at and hopefully where you plan to go. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks very much.
All right. There's Larry Page, the president of Southern Silver Exploration Corp.